Good evening. You're watching the news at 6 with me, Shan Russell. The news at 6 is all about the day's biggest developing stories, and we'll be filling you in on them over the next half hour. But first, the headlines we're tracking right now. Eid celebrations across the country. In Jammu and Kashmir, over 60,000 people offer prayers at the Hazrat Bal Shrine, even as minor incidents of stone pelting and clashes are reported from the state. Indo-Pak tensions escalate. Pakistan soldiers refuse Eid sweets from India at the Wagah border. Pakistan's brazen violation of ceasefire continues in Poonch in Jammu and Kashmir. United Nations body takes note of Indian journalist Akshay Singh's death in connection with the Vyapam scam. UNESCO calls for a thorough probe into the matter. And at least 120 people killed in a suicide attack in a Shia-dominated town north of Baghdad in Iraq. Terror outfit Islamic State claims responsibility. And lakhs of devotees throng Jagannath Puri for the Rath Yatra. It's the first Nabakalibar of the century. Our top story this evening, Pakistan has violated ceasefire yet again in the Poonch sector of Jammu and Kashmir this time. Now, this repeated violation comes even after India registered a protest with Islamabad following excesses earlier this week. Amid the prevailing tension, Pakistani Rangers today refused to accept the sweets offered by the BSF on the occasion of Eid. Border guarding forces of the two countries have been following a tradition of exchanging sweets and festivals at the international border in Jammu and along the Atari-Wagah border in Amritsar in Punjab. Border Security Force said the gesture of giving sweets on the occasion of Eid was not reciprocated from the other side along the Atari-Wagah border. However, the BSF did not offer any sweets to their counterparts along the international border, but the Pakistan High Commissioner to India said he is hopeful of improved relations between the two countries.
हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि जो पूरा रमज़ान हमने माशाल्लाह रमज़ान की बरकतें समेटी उस हवाले से भी और आज ईद का मुबारक मौका भी है तो उम्मीद अच्छी रखनी चाहिए कि दोनों ममालिक के दरमियान ताल्लुकात भी इंशाल्लाह बेहतर होंगे.
But in an embarrassing disclosure for Pakistan, Chinese official media today reported that the spy drone that the Pakistani army shot down along the line of control, claiming it belonged to Indian security forces, was made in China. The drone was recognized in Beijing as the Chinese-made DJI Phantom 3. Quoting Shanghai-based Observer website, the report said that the Phantom 3 advanced drone represents the most intelligent, most powerful and most accessible drone to date. The People's Daily report confirming the Chinese identity of the drone may put Pakistan military in a spot considering the close and strategic ties between Islamabad and Beijing. The Indian Army and the Indian Air Force had already denied the allegations, saying it does not belong to India and the make is Chinese. In a landmark judgment that would safeguard the special status of Jammu and Kashmir under Article 370, the Jammu and Kashmir High Court has said that the constitution of the state is sovereign in character and cannot be challenged, altered or abridged. A division bench of the court ruled that the sovereignty of the state of Jammu and Kashmir under the rule of the Maharaja, even after signing the instrument of accession and in view of framing its own constitution, remained legally and constitutionally intact and untampered. The State Assembly exercises sovereign power to legislate laws. The J&K High Court gave its verdict on a petition regarding the applicability of the Securitization and Reconstruction of Financial Assets and Enforcement of Security Interest Act 2002 in the state. Enacted and enforced by the Indian Parliament in 2002, the Act empowers banks and financial institutions to recover their non-performing assets without the court's intervention. The High Court said this Act cannot be applied to Jammu and Kashmir. Now, the head of the UN agency mandated to defend freedom of expression has called on Indian authorities to thoroughly probe the death of a reporter covering the Vyapam scam in Madhya Pradesh. Irina Bokova, the Director General of UNESCO, has said crimes against journalists carrying out their professional duties must not go unpunished.
The mysterious deaths of people linked to the Vyapam scandal and the furor surrounding it has caught the attention of the United Nations. Director General of UNESCO, the agency which is mandated to defend freedom of speech and expression, has called for a fair and impartial probe into the death of TV journalist Akshay Singh, who died while covering the Vyapam case in Madhya Pradesh on the 4th of July. Expressing condolences to his family and friends, Irina Bokova said, and I quote, It is essential for the rule of law and for the society's right to be kept informed that the authorities do all they can to clarify the cause of Akshay Singh's death. Reporters must be able to carry out their professional duties in a safe environment, and crimes against them must not go unpunished. Unquote. Opposition leaders too continue to exert pressure on the Madhya Pradesh government to come out clean in the case that has claimed more than 24 lives so far.
लड़ाई किसके लिए? कोई सत्ता के लिए नहीं है। ये लड़ाई है व्यवस्था में जिन तरह से लोगों ने बेईमानी से ठगा है समाज को, उसके खिलाफ ये लड़ाई है।
यूनेस्को ने उसकी गहन जांच की मांग की है। इसका मतलब साफ है कि मध्य प्रदेश सरकार और मध्य प्रदेश की जांच एजेंसियों ने ठीक से काम नहीं किया।
The Vyapam case is being investigated by the CBI, which has already registered half a dozen FIRs, including one of murder. The final probe report will be submitted to the Supreme Court, which is monitoring the entire case. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, top international focus. In one of the deadliest attacks, the IS militants killed over 100 people in Iraq on the day of Ramadan. The blast took place in a Shia-dominated town in the north of the capital Baghdad. Iraqi police said that the damage is devastating.
A suicide car bomb carrying around 3 tons of explosives blasted in Iraq's Shia-dominated city on the day of Ramadan, killing at least 120 people and injuring over 130 others. Islamic State claimed responsibility for the attacks. People were celebrating the end of the holy month of fasting when the blast tore up the town of Khan Bani Saad in the north of capital Baghdad. An angry mob went on a rampage after explosions, stricken in grief and anger.
أصبحت مدينة بني سعد منكوبة وهذا الحالة ما بتشوفها قدامك سبب انفجار إرهابي داعشي ما نعرف منين شنو هذا السبب منين دخلت هاي السيارة راحت هاي العالم عماير احترقت شوفوا الشوارع شوفوا العالم شلون أصبحت مصباح عيد هذا.
Iraqi officials said the death toll is expected to rise sharply as rescue teams are still pulling out bodies from under the debris. The government declared 3 days of mourning following the deaths. All parks and entertainment places will remain closed for the rest of the Eid al-Fitr holiday to prevent any further attacks. Islamic State militants took to Twitter to declare that the blasts were to avenge the killing of Sunni Muslims in the northern Iraqi towns. Meanwhile, Iraq stepped up its fight against IS. The Iraqi Defense Ministry said that its pilots conducted several airstrikes on Islamic State vehicles and militants in Anbar province. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now to a focus story for this evening. A day after the European Union approved a short-term loan of $7.8 billion for Greece, former Greece finance minister has told the BBC that the economic reforms imposed on Greece were going to fail. He said, and I quote, "This program is going to fail whoever undertakes its implementation." On being asked how long that would take, he replied, "It has failed already." Meanwhile, in Athens, Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras went in for a major cabinet reshuffle. Tsipras threw out all the rebel ministers who voted against the reforms in Parliament on 16th of July. The Parliament eventually did clear the reform measures, but only after Tsipras appealed to the opposition. Some of Tsipras's ministers had stepped down right after the vote. The reforms passed by the Parliament paved the way for talks with international creditors for a bailout package for Greece.
We're going to continue to give the battle for a social Greece in a social Europe, because Greece is not an isolated case. Greece is just it has put in a clearer way the real dilemma, the dilemma between two opposing visions of Europe, a Europe of austerity, a neoliberal Europe, and a social Europe based on social rights.
And economist Akash Jindal now joins us to help us understand, as far as Greece is concerned, Akash, I mean, the former finance minister, Varoufakis, already saying that these reforms are not going to help the economy recover. How bad a shape is the Greek economy in? And what is the real road to recovery? What are the solutions that can be implemented? Is this short-term $7.8 billion loan going to kickstart the economic recovery process?
I think you have put it very nicely, and your question is, well-pointed question. See, basic issue, the people of Greece, friends in Greece, they need to understand that as of now, the Greek economy, there have been some structural mistakes which they have been committing in Greek economy in the past 4 or 5 years. That's why Greece is there where it is now. Now, as of now, they need to do certain compromises. Now, there are two sorts of things which they have been asked to do. One is austerity measures. Second is reforms. Now, in short term, see, either you face a bank closure or you accept austerity as well as reforms. Now, had I been an advisor to the people of Greece, I would have advised people that in short term, yes, you have to accept austerity measures also, but on a longer term basis, what the people of Greece, what the government of Greece needs to do is, they need to do reforms. Now, what I mean by reform is, one is GDP growth, exports growth, more FDI, more employment, and then more consumption. More employment automatically would lead to anyway more consumption. Because what happens is austerity at the best could be a short-term solution or a first aid. Ultimately, economies can't grow on the basis of austerity. Austerity can only fix a problem for short term.
Right.
So as of now, I think, yes, things are not easy for people of Greece or parliamentarians of Greece. That's why it was not easy or a cakewalk for Cyprus to get through with the vote. There was opposition around 25%.
Right.
Plus, there are questions on longevity of Cyprus government also. But ultimately, the reality, I think, needs to be understood by the people of Greece, because people of Greece as well as Eurozone, they don't have much options as of now, I would say.
Absolutely, and that would bring me to my next question, because the world economy itself is not is in a sluggish kind of a mode right now. The overall global GDP is not growing that much, and in that sense, we are seeing the developed economies taking a major hit, including Europe itself. So, in all this, do we expect more stimulus? Is that the way out? How does one ensure that? Because the revival of an economy is on very crucial factors such as employment generation and more consumption, and how will that be achieved?
Yes, you're very right. See, Europe itself is not in too good a shape. GDP growth of many of the European countries or Eurozone countries very less. Now, except for two countries, one US, secondly India, none of the countries is growing at a fast pace. Even if you see the global economy, China's growth is also slowing. And Europe, many of the countries in Eurozone, the GDP growth is very, very less. So, I mean, can they keep on bailing out? I don't think it is the process which can keep on continuing. So, as of now, what is very pertinent for Greece is to use this bailout. I think, yes, it's not easy to accept austerity measures, just like a pension cut or a VAT increase. So, these are not things which can be easily accepted.
Right.
But I think ultimately in the short term, these need to be accepted. And if not now, perhaps in case there's a re-election or in case there's a stronger government which comes in, then they could be imposed with a bit of strictness, because there is not much way out. Yes, if you are talking about stimulus, I think this bailout itself would be a bit of stimulus, because either you face bank closure or you have a bailout, and ultimately you start growing the economy, because this money you are anyway getting. So that is an opportunity for your economy to grow. Their GDP growth earlier, it has been 3%, and earlier they have been getting FDI also. Earlier there was higher employment generation also. So it's not that Greece can't recover. I mean, things as of now are tough for Greece, but it's not impossible for Greece to recover. So I think, yes, in the short term, they should, this is my advice, if I would be the advisor, they should accept these things, and ultimately they should concentrate more on growth of the economy. Growth of the economy is the way out of paying the debt and ultimately making the entire Eurozone stronger. Because the hidden question in your question, yes, it is very important that in case Greece survives, then Eurozone survives, and then only would other countries also grow, because the globe is interconnected.
Absolutely.
The globe is shrinking, it's interconnected. All countries are in some way dependent on other countries. By shrinking, I mean the connection between the countries.
Absolutely.
Business and other connections are quite close these days.
All right, Akash, we'll leave it over there. But thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand the impact of the Greek crisis, and Greece certainly having to bite the bullet on this one as far as the austerity measures are concerned. Let's see whether that stimulus package works for the economy, and we'll keep a close eye on this one. Akash, thanks very much for coming in and helping us understand this a little better. Let's take a look at some other news that's making headlines around the world in Global Buzz. The Indian national arrested in China for suspected terror links has been released. He is on his way back home. Rajiv Mohan Kulshreshtha was detained in China early on 10 July for watching terror video linked to a banned group. The Indian embassy in Beijing had been negotiating for his release over the last few days. The Westgate shopping mall in Kenya's Nairobi is reopened. It was closed in September 2013 after an Al-Shabaab militant attack which killed 67 people. The reopening comes just a week before US President Barack Obama's visit to Nairobi, a gesture which the Kenyan government said will highlight the safety aspect of the capital. Despite the landmark Iran nuclear agreement, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei called the US arrogant and said that the country's stance towards them will not change. He said this in a speech marking the end of the Islamic holy month of Ramadan. Khamenei reiterated that Iran would continue to back Syria, Iraq, Palestine and other oppressed people in Yemen and Bahrain. Nearly 300 people were injured in a collision between two trains in South African city of Johannesburg. Officials said the injuries were serious, but there are no fatalities. All injured were immediately rushed to a nearby hospital. Police officials are investigating the cause of the crash. Time for a very quick break right now. Coming up on the other side, it's Eid and the country is celebrating it, and how. In Jammu and Kashmir, over 60,000 people offer prayers at the Hazrat Bal Shrine. More on that after the break.
Today we bring to you the Benami Transactions Prohibition Amendment Bill 2015.
I feel that there is a lot of overlapping and there may not be any certainty of the action that may be taken under this act.
If we have to challenge the bill or the act on the basis of saying that it's a retrospective effect, you have to show that the offence was not a continuing one.
Watch Law of the Land, Saturday at 6:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching the news at 6. Now, expelled Aam Aadmi Party leader Prashant Bhushan today lashed out further at Aam Aadmi Party chief Arvind Kejriwal, thrashing and scoffing at Kejriwal's statement suggesting his return to the party. The party says it would be in Bhushan and Yadav's own interest to return, besides the gain for the party. Here's more.
Another nail in the coffin of what was once considered a strong relationship. A day after he tweeted calling Kejriwal a shameless hypocrite for suggesting a Bhushan Yadav return to the AAP fold, Prashant Bhushan aired strong views on what he called deep-rooted anomalies in the party.
More than evident to everybody, including to Arvind, that there is no question of our going back to the Aam Aadmi Party, especially to the kind of Aam Aadmi Party which he has now created. How can he even imagine that we would even think of ever coming back to a party which has become even worse than an ordinary political party?
The other big expelled AAP leader, Yogendra Yadav, even said it's the AAP and not them that have gone completely astray.
Maybe he's forgotten. He's forgotten that we did not leave the party. We were thrown out. As far as the question about our coming back, this thing about coming back applies to those who leave. We never left that path. We are on the path that we started with from Jantar Mantar, of honest politics, politics of integrity. Those who left it in between may wish to consider to come back.
Aam Aadmi Party leaders meanwhile insist the duo's return would only benefit them, besides the party and its mission. Mayank Gandhi, who had criticized the expulsion, called on the leaders to mend differences.
The country is much bigger than any of them or all of them together. So for the betterment of the country, certain strong, even though with all reservations, strong steps should be taken to come back and make this party stronger so that a new nation can be created.
On Friday, the AAP spokesperson had hit out at Bhushan and Yadav, saying they should do something positive beyond abusing party leaders. On both sides, the rancor is clearly far from thinning yet. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Some more international news and updates in Nationwide now. JDU President Sharad Yadav said he will undertake a one-day fast in solidarity with his RJD counterpart Lalu Prasad over the demand of the release of the socio-economic caste census data. JDU chief said the gesture on his part to join the protest fast was an indication that the secular alliance was strong and would put to rest speculation about the two parties going separate ways. The RJD chief has called a one-day Bihar Bandh on 27 July in support of his demand for the release of the caste census data. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee's nephew Abhishek Banerjee has triggered a fresh controversy by claiming that the West Bengal government had killed Maoist leader Kishanji. TMC MP Abhishek Banerjee made the comment in a speech at Bilpari in West Midnapur district on Friday. He said that the area had witnessed regular murders which he attributed to the Maoist influence, which had been growing since 2008. He further added that after the Trinamool government came to power, only one person died, and that is Maoist leader Kishanji. The death toll in the series of cloudbursts that struck both Baltal and Pahalgam routes on the Amarnath Yatra went up to 6 following the recovery of the bodies of 2 missing persons today. In fact, 4 other persons, including 2 children, were killed in the incident. According to officials, 1 body recovered from the river Sindh has not been identified so far. Now, the holy month of Ramzan has ended today with Eid al-Fitr festivities across the nation, and we at Rajya Sabha TV would also like to wish everybody Eid Mubarak. Now, prayers at mosques and with the festive spirit brought the nation together as Rivats wished to peace and harmony. Barring a few scattered incidents in Jammu and Kashmir, Eid was celebrated with much fervour.
A spirit of bonhomie and festive cheer marked Eid al-Fitr celebrations across the country, as people exchanged greetings and large gatherings were seen at mosques and religious shrines for taking part in the observances.
उन तमाम लोगों को, तमाम मुसलमानों को हिंदुस्तान में हो या हिंदुस्तान से बाहर ईद को मुबारकबाद पेश करता हूँ।
हमने दुआ भी किया और दुआ भी करते हैं कि अल्लाह तबारक व तआला हम सबको लंबी उम्र दे, ताकि आने वाला जो रमज़ान हो इसी तरह से हम अगले रमज़ान में भी अल्लाह की रहमतों से उसकी मग़फ़िरत से फ़ायदा उठा सकें।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Home Minister Rajnath Singh extended Eid al-Fitr greetings to the people. Prime Minister Modi tweeted that the festival epitomizes values of brotherhood and harmony in society.
ये भी पैगाम देती है कि मुल्क के रहने वाले, चाहे वो किसी भी धर्म से हों, किसी भी मजहब से हों, किसी भी ज़ात से हों, वो एक हैं, इकट्ठे होना चाहिए, प्यार रखना चाहिए।
मुल्क के तमाम लोगों को मेरी बहुत बहुत मुबारकबाद, और ये ईद पूरी दुनिया में अमन और सुकून के साथ का पैगाम लेकर आए और मेरे मुल्क में तरक्की के साथ साथ अमन और सुकून का माहौल पैदा करे।
पूरे मुल्क के लोगों को ईद की मुबारकबाद देता हूं और उम्मीद करता हूं कि हिंदुस्तान में हम सब मिलजुल कर रहें और हिंदुस्तान को बड़ा बनाएं।
In Jammu and Kashmir's Srinagar, Hazrat Bal Shrine saw a congregation of more than 60,000 people offering the morning prayers. Chief Minister Mufti Muhammad Said and his predecessor Omar Abdullah were present among the devout. However, some stray incidents of stone pelting on security personnel were reported from several parts of the state. Clashes also broke out between the youth and security forces after Pakistani flags were hoisted in the interiors of Srinagar. As a security measure, top separatist leaders were under house arrest ahead of Eid, which marks the culmination of the holy fasting month of Ramzan.
Eid Mubarak.
Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
All right, now more than 2 million devotees throng Puri in Odisha today to catch a glimpse of deities on chariots on the occasion of the Rath Yatra, making the largest ever religious congregation in the state. The events this year coincide with the Navakalivar, or the rebirth of the 12th century Puri Jagannath temple deities, making it all the more auspicious. Well, time now to check out what's been happening in the world of sports. And French Formula One driver Jules Bianchi died today, 9 months after suffering severe head injuries at a crash at the 2014 Japanese Grand Prix. He was 25. Bianchi had been in a coma since the crash. The Frenchman had suffered severe head injuries when in wet conditions in fading light. His Marussia slammed into a recovery tractor while it was attempting to remove Adrian Sutil's crash Sauber. Bianchi made his F1 debut with Marussia in 2013 and was also a member of the Ferrari Young Driver Academy after previously working as a test driver for the team. The first F1 driver to die from injury sustained in a Grand Prix since Brazilian triple world champion Ayrton Senna was killed at Italy's Imola circuit in 1994. Now, India is on the verge of Davis Cup exit after the doubles pair of Rohan Bopanna and Saket Mainene suffered a shock straight set defeat against New Zealand in the Asia-Oceania Group 1 tie. The world number 10 pair lost the crucials doubles 3-6, 6-7, 3-6 as the hosts continued to surprise the Indians. The last time an Indian team lost the doubles rubber in Davis Cup was in April 2012 when India went down to Uzbekistan. The defeat means India trail the tie 1-2 and they will now have to win both the reverse singles tomorrow if they are to advance to the World Group playoffs. In yesterday's singles, Somdev Devarman had suffered a shock defeat in the opening match, but Yuki Bhamri levelled the tie in the second singles. The winner of the tie will advance to the World Group playoffs to be played in September. And time now for all the sporting action in Sports Beat. England has scored 181 runs for the loss of 5 wickets till lunch in reply to Australia's first inning totals of 566 for 8 declared. After suffering a top-order collapse on the second day of the second Ashes Test against Australia at Lord's, England is having a huge deficit of 385 runs and still needs further 186 runs to avoid the follow-on. The president of Bolivia's Football Federation, Carlos Chavez, has been arrested as part of a corruption inquiry. Chavez, who is accused of alleged corruption in the management of resources, is also the treasurer of the South American Football Confederation, CONMEBOL. Bolivia began investigating its football federation after a major corruption scandal broke out involving the sport's world governing body, FIFA. More than 20 Bolivian football executives have given evidence in the court so far. Manchester City completed the signing of Fabian Delph from Aston Villa for £8 million. Less than a week ago, the Villa captain issued a statement stating he would stay with the club after intense media speculation about his future. Delph, who signed a 5-year contract at City, will wear the number 18 shirt. That's all from us. Goodbye.